Hello everyone, this is Andres Restart, and this time we are talking about the Duskbloods. We just learned a lot more about this game, previews have come out, there's a whole bunch of new gameplay footage, we finally have an understanding of what this game is actually about. It's been shrouded in mystery since it was initially announced with that first direct last year about Switch 2 back in April, but now we have a whole bunch of footage, we have a whole bunch of previews, the network test is about to happen, we're going to get a chance to play it ourselves. But we've learned so much, and one big takeaway that I've gotten from all this new information is that this game has been constructed in a way where yes, it's going to have a lot of stuff that appeals to your typical From Software player, but also there are things about this that may appeal to people who aren't used to From Software titles, and that I find really interesting, and so that's what we're going to be diving into alongside all this new information today. Before continuing though, let me ask that if you find yourselves enjoying my videos, and if you haven't subscribed already, to please subscribe. So firstly, I'd like to take a look at this answer from Miyazaki in this IGN interview. So IGN had asked, yeah, FromSoft games have always been like, here's the world, you figure it out. The Duskbloods has a multi-step tutorial, which was great for the basics. So, I want to get into how you're thinking about finding and maintaining an audience that's going to stick with the game, given that it does have a lot of complexities with a higher barrier to entry than most multiplayer games. Miyazaki. This is probably something you could say for all of our games, but we don't really have a set audience in mind at the start. It's very much showing that this is what I wanted to make. The motivation is that this is a game I want to see exist. Personally, I'm not very great at these high-intensity action games and things like PvP. So, at the start, the audience really is just myself while thinking about how I would go at this. Are there systems in place that I would enjoy, that cater to me as a player, not being someone who's really into that intense PvP? That's a lot of where it starts. In the network test version, obviously a lot of the features are somewhat limited. But in the final version, there's a lot of character customization, lore, and story. Things you can enjoy at your own pace as well, aside from the actual gameplay. There are definitely a lot of ways to play the game and a lot to enjoy. So fans of our other games should always be able to find something that they can latch onto and enjoy. And so I wanted to point this out first, because I think it gives us a pretty good perspective of what Miyazaki was aiming for with the Duskbloods. He's not really that fond of PvP himself, even though PvP has become a big part to a lot of games made by From Software. And I think this is important because PvP being player versus player, if you have someone who's very experienced or very much into PvP, they are going to be far better, and something like that might scare off a lot of people for a multiplayer game like this, where there's going to be a lot of players who are very much into previous From Software titles who are very good at PvP. It could be daunting. But Miyazaki here has been aiming to make a game where there are other options, there are other ways to enjoy this experience, and now that we finally learned a lot more about this game, I'm seeing the bigger picture here. I'm seeing how other people can actually enjoy this game, even if they're not necessarily very good at PvP, there are other ways to win. And so what we've learned about the game, the way to win is to acquire virtue points and make it to the very end and win that final interaction. And you can acquire virtue points in various ways, through PvP, yes, but also PvE, player versus enemy, and also just exploring around and finding things. And to me, this is very cool. Like, just taking a look at some of the footage here, you can see that it's very much like a lot of From Software titles where you have these big worlds that you can go about exploring, finding cool stuff. And yeah, there are NPCs to battle. It's not just human players. And so there are going to be various types of interactions, and you can acquire virtue points in various ways. There are 4 phases per match, and there are 8 players in each match. By the second phase, the 2 players with the least amount of virtue points will be eliminated, leaving only 6 left. And then by the end of the third phase, 3 more players will be eliminated, leaving just 3 players left. Now, if this is in duos, it will work a little bit differently, 2 and 2, leaving 4 at the end for the very final phase. And the very final phase can be handled differently. It may be a deathmatch between the players involved, or it could be a combined effort against a boss fight. And this dynamic, alongside of various other things, gives other players a chance to succeed, even if they're not the best PvP player. If you can find ways to survive, get enough virtue points to make it to the final stand, I believe it's called the Blood Bestowal, that's the final stage, then in there, you have opportunities to succeed, because it is 3 people, so if there's one player who's really good, you can take advantage of that situation to perhaps have a chance to win, even though that other player may be better at you when it comes to 1v1 battles. Or, if it's everyone teaming up together to fight a boss fight, then it becomes a team effort. And there's just so much that can be done that can get you to this point. There's so much that can be done that's beyond just the PvP element. We've learned that there are actually various modes, so there is solo, where there are alliances, where you're playing through and you can form alliances with different players. And what's interesting about this is that you're not actually rewarded for just running around killing other players. You could do that, but there'd be no benefit. It would actually be to your detriment if you're just wasting time not acquiring virtue points. And so there's another little wrinkle there. You can be exploring around and there may be opportunities where you see someone else, you will choose to form an alliance and you will work together to get to the final phase of the game. You do have the option to break off the alliance, and there's some sacrifice there in terms of life, I understand, but it's a really interesting element. And we only have footage from one map, but apparently there are other maps. We've heard there are going to be 3, and even within this one map, it does seem to be fairly expansive, not like super large, but there's still a lot to explore, a lot to do, and each round can feel really different because there are events that can happen, there are different things you can find, you can go at it from different locations, and there are various classes you can use as well, and there's a lot of customization there. So there's just so many different variables that can change the flow of a match and what you're going to see, where you're going to find, what you're going to do. I see a lot of reason to continually come back and play here and enjoy these rounds that will be about 30 minutes or so from what we've heard of previews. And while we've heard there's customization options outside of the matches that we'll see in the final game, even from what we've seen so far, the network test, you can customize sigils, and there's only a few sigils provided for the network test, but there are some interesting ones that would lead to PvP moments. And let me make that clear, PvP is still a big part to this game, so if you're a big fan of that, that is still here. You will oftentimes be hunting certain players and things of that nature, or there are going to be these moments throughout the phases where there are the ritual stages where that will become more relevant. But there are different kinds of sigils that give you different tasks to accomplish. For example, you can propose to someone and work together as lovers. But maybe if you do have a lover, there's someone else as a sigil who is a mortal enemy of one of the 2 people in the relationship, and that can cause drama, that can cause different things to happen throughout the match. And that's just with a few sigils that have been made available for this network test. There are going to be more. They're going to lead to a whole bunch of other really interesting, unique interactions. But something else we're seeing being brought back here are NPCs that can assist you. You can summon a kin and level them up throughout the match as well. And so this will help to further mix things up. Also, just the random NPCs you're fighting, you can stagger them, suck their blood, and then they can join you for a little while too. So you can actually form up a little bit of a party here to work with you to get to the very end. So there are strategies here. There are various things that can be done that can get you to that point, and there are different kinds of characters that have various skills, some of which are more evasive, some of which you can use to hide around or fight from a distance. So really, there are just so many different options here, so many different ways you can choose to play, that after seeing all of this and learning about all of this, I'm really excited to try out the different things you can do throughout the Duskbloods. I think it's going to be a really good time, and I don't think I've seen a game quite like this before. I haven't even mentioned the Trespassers, which are boss battles, and if you run into a boss battle, you can actually invite the other players of the match to join up with you. And so there's a lot of different elements here where you can team up, where you can fight against each other or do things separately. A lot here looks really fun. It's a lot of really cool things all in one. And I'm just reminded of a lot of really interesting things when I take a look at the gameplay. And so let's get to that point here. From the gameplay we've seen so far, there's a lot more verticality, as a lot of people point out in the previews, the way the environments are structured. You can climb up very high or get very low, and the characters can move about. They can jump several times in the air. They have various mid-air jumps. Some characters can literally fly, at least for brief periods, and so a lot more can be done in the air. And I almost kind of get the sense of this kind of playing a little bit like what a 3D Smash Brothers would play like, and that's very interesting. Like, I'm getting vibes like that, but I'm also getting vibes a little bit like with City Run in Kirby Air Riders. where you go to the map and there's so much that could happen. Each match could play out very differently with the different events and different things that players are choosing to do. There's just so much going on here, but it does seem to have at the core of it that really awesome From Software style of combat, but also that atmosphere and aesthetic as well. Visually, from what we're seeing, I think the game looks pretty great. We are hearing that the game is running at 1080p at about 40 frames per second, so they are going above 30 here. We're not seeing full 60 FPS gameplay right now. It has been noted that there still will be optimizations. We do not have a firm release date on the game yet. It's still said to be coming out at some point in 2026 though. So I have been thinking this game is likely coming out in December. We'll see what actually happens, but if it is a December release, that's a few more months of optimization. We'll see how well this game is running by the end. But I find myself even more excited for this game. There's so much to it. There's so much that I want to really sift through here. This is just the beginning of the conversation when it comes to the Duskbloods. I'm very excited about this one, but what do you all think? What do you make of all the latest news about the Duskbloods? Are you excited for the network test? Are you already sold on the game? Do you have any unique perspectives you would like to share in the comments below? Please let me know. This is Andres Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I will see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.